The James Bond Show with Krazy Kajeevie. Hey guys, welcome back to the James Bond Show. I'm your host, Krazy Kajeevie, with no fears, limits, or substitutes. The bad boy of James Bond that I am. Okay guys, thank you again for joining me. Little bit of housework here. If you haven't clicked the subscribe button, please do, and also hit that notification bell. And I say that so you guys can support this channel, the only non-politically woke James Bond channel out there that truly defends James Bond as Ian Fleming created him, with literally with no limits, fears, or substitutes. I don't also pander to the left. Some people will say a little bit of what I say, and then they will also say, oh, but I don't want to offend all the other people. Well, no, I don't care about offending the other people, because if you're wrong and I offend you, then you deserve it. And that's the way I see things, because there is right and there is left. And the good go the way of the right and the bad go the way of the left. And that's even a Bible verse as well. I've paraphrased the Bible verse and I've got to look up what it is again. But anyway, so what am I doing here? What am I doing today? All right, this is kind of a bit off the cuff. Now, I've been harboring these thoughts and thinking about this stuff, obviously, for quite a long time. But when I say this video is off the cuff, because normally I will have plot points and stuff there of what I'm going to talk about. I don't this time. In fact, I might as well do that, because I didn't write... That's cool. Because I didn't write anything down for this video. It's all going to come off my Chrome, my thoughts. But what it is about is the direction that I believe the James Bond franchise needs to go, which I'm pretty clear in. Now, recently, after reading Live and Let Die and Moonraker novels, which I enjoyed both thoroughly, I really realised what the franchise needs to do. And I've looked at where the strengths of the James Bond franchise from 1962 right up to 2022, now 60 years, and the last one being 2021 with No Time to Die. I've looked at the strength of the franchise and what I believe the producers and Eon and Amazon, what they need to do. At the end, towards the end of this video, I am going to do my predictions of what I think they will do. Now, they're not set in concrete. They're more fears than predictions, and I will be putting my hopes within those as well. But definitively, I will start with what I believe, and I doubt Barbara Broccoli or Eon Productions will ever listen to this video, but if they did, and Barbara Broccoli sat back and Michael G. Wilson with a coffee, and they just listened to me from a diehard, and I understand these guys know Bond incredibly well. Overall, they love James Bond, especially I believe Michael G. Wilson does. If they were to sit back and listen to me and throw out the fact that they've been doing this for years a little bit, and just look how a diehard fan, who also I believe I represent a lot of diehard James Bond fans. I interact with diehard James Bond fans every day. It's a passion of mine to do so, in private chat groups, on Facebook pages, etc. And I know what James Bond fans want. I also read the comments of fans in other YouTube channels, and I see what they want. So, with that, I'll get into this. What I think they need to do... Actually, you know what I'm going to do, guys? I'm going to knock off what they shouldn't do, because a lot of what other fans are saying they'd like to see, even though there's some great points and they've got a lot of merit, this is what not so much what I don't think they should do, but what I don't think they will do, and the reasons for that. So first of all, taking James Bond back to the 50s and 60s. No, I don't think it should happen. I don't think it will happen. Would I love to see it happen, even though I don't think it should happen? Like, as in, if they did it, I would be all for it. I'd be like, okay, this is interesting. But I don't think they will go back to the 50s and 60s. And the key reason for that is James Bond has always been up to date. And Broccoli kept that going through the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and obviously into the 90s where he was more of a associate producer in the background and more the heart and the soul of James Bond pushing onwards with GoldenEye back in 1995, where Barbara and Michael produced GoldenEye. So he always kept them contemporary, and James Bond has to be contemporary. Now, you can't have sponsorship deals with whether it's a brand new Rolex or a brand new Omega. You can't have exciting new technology either if you go back to the 50s and 60s. And we've seen 50s and 60s technology. We've seen it all done before. So I want to see the latest. You know, I want them to kind of put away the DB5, even though I love the DB5 and I've got it right here. I want to see them put it away, and I want to see them refresh Bond by going back to a beautiful, like a new Lotus car or something like that, and keep Bond fresh. And also you get these incredible inventions out there, like literally flying cars now. They're looking at taxi cars, you know, from parts of Melbourne to the airport here in Victoria. It's going to be very interesting to see how these things happen. So I would still like James Bond to be relevant so we can see that kind of technology. But the key thing of this video, I'm going to get right into now. The key point I want to see them do, and what I think they should do to reboot the James Bond franchise, is this. And this is the main talking point of this video, and what I would like you guys to talk about in the comment section below. I think they need to 150% go back to the novels. Now hear me out here. They need to go back to the novels in order. Now in 2006, obviously they did a version of a novel / film version of Casino Royale. It wasn't super close. It was super close to the novel in spirit, but there's so many aspects there that they added in the feature film, which I think was really great. So it was an incredible adaptation. Now, because we have that adaptation of Casino Royale, I don't think they should go back and make Casino Royale. What I think they should do is go back to the novels in order, but forget about Casino Royale. If they want to do a real Fleming Casino Royale, then fine, go back to it. But I don't think they need to do that. While reading Live and Let Die, though a lot of lefties will, excuse the French here, will crap on Live and Let Die novel because of what they deem as racism, even though they take out the fact, honestly, it is set back in the 50s when things were very different. Also, I'll give you an example. There is, which I don't like. I mean, some of my best friends are black. One of my best friends is black, and my admin, good friend Gershwin J. Quintine from James Bond Fans Would Love is black. So I hate the word nigger. I hate that word, and I hate black people referring to themselves as niggers. It's really bad. But what you see in Live and Let Die, when Solitaire refers to one of these black people as a nigger or niggers, she's talking about the group of people that basically have been persecuting her, that her life is endangered, threatened by, and these people are rapists, murderers, and occultists. So that's what she's talking about there. She's not talking about black people in general. Now, Ian Fleming throughout Live and Let Die refers to them as Negroes. Well, you know, I want to do, before I even have a solid opinion on the word Negro, I'd like to do more research on the foundation of it, where it came from, because one of my big beliefs in life is do not have a strong opinion about something you know nothing about. You need to really, you know, go and research before you have an opinion, and that's the problem. Opinions are for free, and everyone's chucking them out there without actually being grounded, being realistic, getting real facts, and doing their research. And I'm not talking about 6 p.m. news facts. I'm talking about real research facts away from mainstream media and what the oligarchs want us to believe. So what I do believe here is we need to go back to those novels. And I'm going to explain the advantages of going back to the novels. Now, yes, Live and Let Die would need to have a fair bit of reshaping. Obviously, the times are very different from when that was written, but the bulk of the character of James Bond is there. And there's aspects like, for example, where the suitcase explodes in his room near the start of the novel. I mean, if that was done in a really fantastic, exciting way, that could be part of a pre-title sequence. Something like even where Goldfinger is very limited in the pre-title sequence, but it's classic, and so is Casino Royale. It's limited, it's film noir, black and white, it's short and brief, it's one punch up in a toilet and Bond shooting Dryden. So it's nothing spectacular, but it's spectacular in the way of the characterization that's pushed in it. So something like that in Live and Let Die, showing a briefcase exploding, done with kind of almost like a Brian De Palma style direction. Like if you see his film, the one with The Untouchables with Sean Connery in it, where they're picking up I can't remember the guy's name in the film. I haven't seen the film for years, but it's beautifully directed. This scene where they're picking up this guy from a train station and there's gangsters there and there's the good guy cops there, and the way it's filmed and done. If they did something like that, it could really, really work on a low scale, but it could still be very faithful to the novel. You've got other incredible stuff there. Obviously, you've got a lot of the train scene stuff there. I believed instead of almost like the way Ian Fleming wrote that in a backstory kind of way where he puts you there and then he tells you things that happen later. So you'll be there with Bond and Solitaire, and then later on he'll describe other things that happened later on, like when Solitaire and Bond got off the train and how there was an attack with guns and all that. Well, in a screenplay adaptation, if they do Live and Let Die like I believe they should, you don't need to waste time with going back and someone saying, oh, and Bond, this happened on the train. No, we can see that kind of in first person. So there are a lot of opportunities for incredible action. Now, of course, the last 40, 50 pages of Live and Let Die, the novel, is just insanely good. Imagine showing Bond. Obviously, technology is very different these days, but if they could kind of incorporate a great action scene where Bond is trying to put mines on Mr. Big's boat, and showing Bond getting through those perilous waters with the octopus, the piranhas and all that, if they could go back and do that realistically, it would be incredible. And also the keel hauling. Now, I know we saw some keel hauling in For Your Eyes Only, but if they could show keel hauling done how it was written in the novel, where basically they're going to get, once they hit this part of a coral reef, they're going to get torn apart. And they need those bombs on the boat to explode before that happens. If they go there in those places, it could be incredible. Also, to the lead up where Mr. Big ties up, where they get Bond and Solitaire tied up, when Bond enters the cave, all of that is incredible. That is like, to me, old school James Bond, where we see an incredible villain. I think arguably he's probably the best villain ever in a Ian Fleming novel. Mr. Big is an incredible villain. So I really believe if they hire a great actor, now I know Daniel Kaluuya is only like 5'7" or something, or 5'9", whatever it is. I think he's 5'7", 5'9". His characterization through his face, he could be an incredible Mr. Big. But I know there'd be a lot of fantastic coloured actors out there, black actors out there that could do a great Mr. Big. And to really do him like was in the novels, and also Tee like he was in the novel as well. So that's what I feel they need to do. They need to go back to the novels. Now, the advantage of this is they can create screenplays really quickly. You've got the novel. You do a breakdown of the novel, of the key scenes you want to keep in your script, right? Then you structure those, you basically write out those scenes. And then from there, you've got your basic structure like in the novel. You've got your story, you pick out the scenes you want, and you start structuring the film like that. Then you think of real life things, whether it be locations and also modern things, like whether it's cars, whether it's a flying car or a hovercar, whatever. You can then take these things and put them into that screenplay. And that way you will get a screenplay really quick, and you don't have to worry about recreating completely new characters. And now some fans may say, hey, Kajeevie, but we want new characters. We don't want characters we've seen before. But guys, this is what I tell you. We've never seen the Ian Fleming characters, apart from probably 1 or 2 films, from Russia with Love and On Her Majesty's Secret Service. We've never really seen the Bond villains and the Bond novels made like they should have been. Now, Casino Royale, even though they added a lot that wasn't into the novel, they kept sticking to the spirit of the novel. And they kept the important stuff, like the bitch is dead, and Bond getting his balls bashed in, and all of that. And, of course, the casino stuff. So, make Live and Let Die, right? As you're making, as Live and Let Die is in production. Literally production. Not pre-production, not post-production. Production, as they're filming it. You then have, if you're sticking with Purvis and Wade, okay, and whoever else you bring in, even if it is a Phoebe Waller-Bridge, if she's there to add the human stuff, great, as long as she's not cucking James Bond. But if she's in there to do the humour, then I'm all for that. I think she can do really good humour. I'll admit that she can, as long as she's not messing with the core of Bond and putting him down. So, while the film's in production, you get your writers and you say, there's your next one, Moonraker. And they go away and they write a script for Moonraker. And you say, we need it, there's a deadline, boom. And once Live and Let Die is in post-production, then Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson, or whoever's producing the Bond films at the time, can get into that screenplay, look it over, start their meetings, get storyboards done, and go, okay, what are we going to do with this, right? Or get a director on early. Kind of like what was being done with Star Wars. While one was in production, they were in production on the next Star Wars film. They did it too early, trying to push a Star Wars film when you don't have a novel to go to, or you're coming up with a completely new plot and you're ignoring all the stuff George Lucas did. That's a disaster. That's why they ran into trouble. Also, they clearly wanted to get rid of the past of Star Wars by getting rid of Luke, getting rid of male heroes, etc. Where with James Bond, and also the visual effects with Star Wars, you've got to really, if you want to focus on a good Star Wars film, you keep it every 3 years. You don't go 2 years. With James Bond, you can do every 2 years if you go back to the novels. And that is what Cubby and Harry had all those years back ago. They could go to the novels. And it's just a great basis. That is your pizza base. Other stuff you add in, great. That's the extra toppings. So once you do Moonraker, okay, you've done Live and Let Die, you've done Moonraker, say Diamonds Are Forever. Diamonds Are Forever was never done properly either. Then you can redo it from Russia with Love, and of course you can use modern day aspects of what's going on in the world. If you want to put in a shadowy group and you want to stay away from Russia directly, like Smersh and all that, like Cubby did, and they just made it about Spectre, then fine, you can go and do that. But this gives them an opportunity to keep the novels being sold. Keep the novels being sold by, introducing the James Bond novels to the fans by making the films based on the novels. It allows you to quickly go back and write a screenplay, and you can do what has never been done before, and we can finally get all the novels made one after the other in order and truly see Ian Fleming's James Bond. And of course, add more of the tropes, the vodka martinis, the certain cars, the locations, the women, etc. All that can be added. But I fundamentally believe to stop these bullshit excuses of, we need to come up with this. We don't know the direction of the villain. We don't know the direction of the world. We don't know the direction of the story. And then they come up with these bullshit excuses for 4-5 year waits. That can be gone. Just go back to the novels. Would I like to see a new Dr. No? Absolutely. Bring it. Do we have a great Dr. No? Yeah, but why not have another Dr. No? Why not have another On Her Majesty's Secret Service? Do them all properly. Just keep going every 2 years. Every 2 years. And that way, you're going to have an actor that you're going to get a lot more films out of. This way, if you have someone like you cast Aidan Turner, then you get literally a Bond film with Aidan Turner every 2 years. You can get seven films out of him. And if you are going to do the novels in a continuation form, I think it would be better to make those films every 2 years so you keep that same actor, so the audience carries on with that actor. So that's my vision. That's what I feel they need to do. Keep it contemporary. So go back to the novels, keep it contemporary, Get the screenplays out, each screenplay by a set date, and say that you're going to have a cinematic release of this new Bond film on a set date every second year. And that is your goal. And have an overall map. So literally a map, like Marvel did with the MCU. Have a map and say, this is what we're following, this is what we're going to stick to. And you don't have to mess around with stories and backstories and all that when you're writing off the novels. Now, that's how they should reboot James Bond. That's what I feel they need to do. Now, Dutch Bond fan, who I do like, he did a video recently where he talked about the timelines, you know, the code name, the timelines, etc. And he likes to think, and I've never thought of this before, he likes to think that he sees just the Sean Connery films as its own timeline, the Roger Moore films as its own timeline. And he talked about, even though you see not Tracy by name mentioned in The Spy Who Loved Me and License to Kill, but Bond being married, that's like, oh yeah, but that happened in a Lazenby film, etc., etc. So it means they're all tied together. And yeah, overall, you can say 100% they're all tied together. But I have to admit, his point made sense, because in Connery's thing, he could have been, you know, because he was Bond in Diamonds Are Forever after On Her Majesty's Secret Service. That could have been his back in his own film like arc. He could have been, his Bond could have been married to Tracy. Roger Moore's could have been with Tracy, etc., etc. So I can't, from that point of view, it makes sense. So what do I think they need to do with this one? I think they just need to get, it's a complete reboot. It doesn't belong, obviously, it can't belong to the Bond from 62 to 2002. Daniel Craig's was a complete separate arc, we get that. But this new Bond has to be a complete new reboot. And this allows them to do the novels again and to do a new Dr. No, From Russia with Love, Goldfinger, Thunderball, etc. To do them all. And this can be this actor's arc. Now, if this actor gets a bit old and they're still going through the novels, that's fine. Just replace him and go back and do like what you did between 62 and 2002, where this actor is playing the same, you know, the same Bond. So that's what I think they should do. Now, to the bad bit, what I think they may do. The biggest thing that worries me is when Barbara Broccoli came out and said that James Bond, which was great when she said James Bond is a male, obviously, can't be a female, or else it wouldn't be James Bond, unless you're dealing with something really sick and unnatural. And the thing that worries me, though, is when she came out, and Mickey G came out and said that James Bond James Bond has to be British, has to be a British male, but he can be of any colour. Well, no, that's wrong. Because as I've said, and I don't want to harp on this, I'm just going to say it quickly in this video, Ian Fleming's James Bond. So Daniel Craig is Ian Fleming's James Bond. Roger Moore is Ian Fleming's James Bond. It all matches. You can't have a coloured actor and say that's Ian Fleming's James Bond, or Ian Fleming's complete history, the character inside the man, what he was, what he put into the character, the background of Monique Delacroix, his Swiss mother, his Scottish father, Andrew Bond, etc. It's all gone. So no, you shouldn't have done that. And what I believe they should have the balls and courage to do is say, no, James Bond is a white British male, and let's make characters. Others can make characters for actors of different nationalities or characters of different nationality. And there are many, many films with characters of different nationality. So this should not even be a subject. And as I've discussed many times here on the James Bond show, it is all done to break down what we love, male heroes, role models, the family unit, everything. It's about dissecting everything we know. Anyway, so sadly what I think they will do, I think what we will hear through the media is them doing casting ideas and basically, with auditions, with coloured actors, etc., just to keep the media happy. Now, I don't think Regé-Jean Page has a hope in hell of ever becoming James Bond. Even if he was white, I don't. In fact, 100%, if he was white, there'd be no talk of him. Barbara Broccoli would not go for him if he was white. If he was white, he would kind of be like another Tom Hiddleston. Effeminate, even more effeminate than Tom Hiddleston. And I like Tom Hiddleston, but he's not James Bond. Regé-Jean Page is highly effeminate. two earrings here, he talks gay. I'm not being homophobe, I'm not being anything. I'm just stating facts. That's a toy car, that's an action figure. Reggae Gene Page talks like he's gay. If you didn't see him and you didn't know him and you just heard him talking, you think, oh, that guy might be gay. That's it. That's not the type of guy James Bond's going to go for. The guy that I believe she will go for, and I believe that Amazon want, is Aidan Turner, and I think it's a brilliant choice to keep both sexes, male and female, happy. The guys will want to be Aidan Turner. He's going to look great with a brand new, whether it's, I'd love them to go back to Rolex like the old Bond films, like the 60s, but whether he's wearing an Omega, a Seamaster, or he's wearing a Rolex, you know, he's wearing a Submariner or whatever, I want to see Aidan Turner as James Bond. My fear is that if they're really pushed and the agenda's as bad as what I thought it is, then they may push for a politically correct James Bond. I certainly don't want it to be a Henry Golding or a Reggae Gene Page, but it will be an actor, a younger, maybe black British actor that we may not even know about. If that happens, I personally will not support the franchise anymore. Again, it's got nothing to do with racism. My James Bond is Ian Fleming's James Bond, is the James Bond that Cubby and Harry, and also Barbara and Michael, have produced and made for all these years. That's my James Bond. I can't identify myself as a white, formerly British man. That was where my upbringing was. People may not know that. I can't see the James Bond I see that I want to be like, that, you know, that I wish I was. I go off into those fantasies in my head when I'm watching the film. I won't be able to see that anymore in a black man. I just won't be able to identify with that. So that's just what it is. And I believe many James Bond fans won't. And I think it would be completely destructive of the franchise. It would be like killing the golden goose. And there's an old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I think they should definitely avoid that and just stick with a white male British heterosexual actor. Just stay away from political correctness. And the number one thing, Barbara, you have to do is what your father said. Do not let outside influences come in. Do not let outside influences come into James Bond. Stick to the novels. Give us white British James Bond. Don't bring in coloured actors. And also the sensitivity stuff and all that. Fine, it's fine if Bond shows a bit of sensitivity and emotion. That can add to the depth, texture, characterization within the story. You know, that's fine. But also what most people want to see is action, like GoldenEye. We want to see the action. We want to see the fun. We want to see the gorgeous women. Stop doing things on location and sets like banning the term Bond girls. Embrace Bond girls. That is what James Bond is. And the James Bond women have been strong, have been tough, have been feminine, been sexy, been gorgeous. So you don't need to redefine that. Just go back to classic kind of, not time period, but style, 60s, 70s, 80s, or 60s, 80s Bond. Go back to that kind of edge, especially that great balance that John Glenn had. That's what you want to do at the same time going back to the novels. So guys, I'd love to know what you think in the comments. I know this has probably been a bit of a long video. I wanted to get this off my chest. I believe they've got to go back to the novels, contemporary times. And if you say, oh no, they shouldn't, just remember one thing, just think about it. Do you want a Bond film out every 2 years? Or do you want to wait every 4 or 5 years for a James Bond film? Going back to the novels is the right thing to do. Thanks guys, till next time. Keep on bonding, say hi to your mum for me. I've been Krazy Kajeevie. Don't forget to smash that subscribe button and God bless you. And I'll bring Scooby back next time.